I have a crazy cat. That's all I can say. Little crazy face. The Marilyn Monroe marking. Go on. The cats. Yes, those cats. You hear that? She's mad because she ate the kitten's food. And the kitten got mad at her. And then I got mad at Scooby. It's my cat's name. And now she's just a upset little butthead. Yep, it happens. You get cats. I think you know the gist. So today, I decided that I want to talk about something maybe a little important. I like doing the funny videos, and I'll definitely be doing more of those, and I hope that everybody watches them and likes them and laughs. Haha, right? Yeah. Okay, and then, no, and then. So today I thought that we'd talk a little more serious. I was in foster care for a few years growing up. I was kind of a bad kid, and my parents were told by CPS that if I wasn't taken out of the home, that everyone in the home would be taken out, all of my siblings. And so therefore I was taken out and put into foster care. Now, experiencing foster care, that is something that not many people can say. But my first experience was actually right before a group home, and it was a state agency, and I was there for 2 months, and then I went to a group home for a year, and that was a very interesting experience in my life. That foster home, most of the time I spent in a friend of the foster mother's house. And then I would go back home and spend the night at the place that I lived every night. It was an interesting experience. It wasn't too bad. Probably not the craziest experience of foster care that I've had to deal with. I had a lot of different experiences. I didn't really tend to stay in a home for very long, and that was probably because I was a bad kid. Who knows? I was troubled, obviously. Troubled. You know the gist, right? Maybe a little bit. But I had some very interesting times in those places, and honestly, I'm not going to tell all the stories, because those are things that, well, I don't know if YouTube is ready for it. I'm just kidding. I just don't feel like talking about it like this yet. But there was definitely some interesting things that happened, obviously. And I met a lot of foster children through that. I also had foster kids that I was friends with at my school and things like that through special programs and things like that. But there was, a lot of information that I learned then, but also a lot of information as an adult. Now, there is a lot of great things that as a foster youth you can get. As an adult, there are things that they offer in certain instances, but once you get to a certain age, for the most part, there's not a lot of help for foster youth that are now adults. I believe the age is 25, where they really cut off most of the help. If you didn't get into a program before the age of 25, you're less likely to have help after 25. And it's difficult because, if you're raised without any real parenting, and once you turn 18, you're thrown out there and you have no one to turn to, what exactly is it that we do for those kids? I don't know everything about it. I do know that there is a lot that we don't do, though. And I think it's frustrating because, I have parents and they help me out a lot. And it's great. It's wonderful. But I have to say, there was a lot of times in my life that if I didn't have parents, I probably would have ended up on the streets doing drugs and probably dying. For the most part, that is a lot of what happens. And what's even worse is that I found out recently that I guess it's 80% of prison inmates were foster children. 70% or something like that have at least experienced it at some point in their life. And let's just say that you have no idea what goes on in a foster home, okay? So I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that don't. Now, foster homes, they do have to go through a background check to be, a foster parent. And there's a lot of things that they have to do to become a foster parent. But there's also those cases where, they passed all of that. But their real initiative to getting foster children was not to help them. And there's a lot of people out there in this world that go into homes that are horrible and crazy and more tormenting to them than being homeless. And things happen. A lot of children have been molested, raped, beaten, abused, all kinds of horrible things happen to foster kids in the foster system. And once you get lost in the foster system, there's really no coming back from it. It's almost like going to prison all on its own. You get lost in the system, you're there for good. And at the end of it, you can end up in prison. It's sad. I had a friend that was in foster care, and she was one of my best friends growing up. And we had pretty awesome times. After she turned 18, she married, did her own thing. She got into drugs, of course, but I believe she was getting into them before she turned 18. I'm not positive on that, but I ran into her recently, and it's quite devastating to see. I was at Walmart, stuck there in the middle of the night because, well, it wasn't the middle of the night. I ended up having a ride. I'm lucky that I have a lot of people that care about me and love me, and I was able to get home and have a place to go home to. But I was waiting to see who could give me a ride or who was going to give me a ride or on my ride. And there was a woman walking by with a shopping cart full of bags. And it was my friend. Yeah. That was a really devastating experience. I ended up trying to help her out after that, but doing my research, I found that she's 30. Um, there was nothing that could help her. The only thing that could help her was getting her into a drug program through the Medi-Cal that was given to her as a foster child. Once you get that, you have it for life, which is great. It's wonderful that we offer that. But getting into a drug program doesn't mean that she's going to have that support for the rest of her life either. And, I couldn't do much about it because if she wanted to stay on drugs, she's going to stay on drugs, and there's nothing I can do about it. I tried my best to support her and help her. I even paid for a hotel room, $80 on one of the coldest nights in December so that she could stay warm. And, I tried to talk to her about getting clean, and she promised me she would. And I talked to her a couple times after that, and one of the times I found out she was not sober again. And that's when I realized that no matter how hard you care about someone, there's only so much you can do. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't think that there should be something that could have been done more so for her, but there's not much I could do. I'm not rich. I don't have a lot of money. I don't even have a car. So I was taking Uber to and from her and taking her in Ubers to places or trying to get someone who could help give us rides to meetings and whatever we could. It was a very difficult situation, and by the end of the day, I was so tormented by everything in a way that I was hurting for her. And at the same time, I was angry about situations that she was put in because of what life had thrown at her and what no one else out there could do for her. And, I started dealing with my own stuff, and so it's a little bit hard to help someone out when you're dealing with your own issues. And not only was I dealing with my own issues, but I was dealing with the fact that I couldn't help my friend. And the person that she is today is not the kid that I knew growing up. Happy, go lucky, bright. I mean, she's still bright. It's just she's lost. And all of the brains are going nowhere right now because she's stuck. I came home and I was so happy for what I had. I, gave thanks for everything that I had. But at the same time, it hurt that I had all of this and, she didn't. She ended up losing all of her belongings at one point as well. Just more devastating, but I had a feeling it would happen eventually, being homeless. A bag or a cart full of bags only goes so far. And you can only go so far with it. So, I guess my point in this video, obviously, there's got to be a point, right? I don't understand how we could be a nation that is supposed to be united. The United States. A country of dreams and freedom and so much, and yet we leave behind so many because who cares, right? I mean, it shouldn't be right, but it is. It is exactly how this country is, for the most part, at least. I know that there's people out there that stand for the same thing as me, and I know there's people out there that wish they could do something, or are trying to do something. And I think that it has a lot to do with our government. Not to say that, we have the worst government out there or anything, because we don't. But there's countries out there that have no homeless people. They don't have issues with children being homeless. They don't have issues with any of that. Why? Because they make sure to take care of it from the beginning, before it ever gets that far. And they put in the efforts for everything. I definitely believe that our country is no longer what we stood for in the beginning, at least for the most part. The words don't meet the actions. And I do plan to do something about it someday. I want to. I want to try my best to create something. And, I'm going into osteopathic medicine, but my focus will be on children. I plan to have a focus on children. And if that means that I have to help out kids who have no income, that have no home, and do it for free, I will. And I'll figure out all kinds of things I can do for them. And, as a doctor, I'll hopefully have enough money to do that. But, whatever the case, still do it. So, I just want to put this out there because I think it is an awareness that not a lot of people are aware of. About foster youth, and I'm sure you know a lot about how the foster system works in many ways. A little bit about how the fact that there's a lot of crazy homes out there, I'm sure. But on a regular day-to-day basis, it probably is not something that you think about. And it's probably not something that you necessarily are worried about. I'm not saying everyone's that way, but I understand we all have our own lives. We all have our own things that we have to worry about. But the awareness does need to be put out there, and it does need to be said. Whether this video reaches enough people or not, I don't know. But I know there's people out there who are doing the same as me. And that's all that matters. So, again, I want to put this out there because it's just the kind of person I am. If you are a foster youth, foster adult youth, contact me. Let's talk. And, there's not a lot of money that I have, but that doesn't mean that I won't try to do the research to help you out. It doesn't mean that I won't try to talk you through some situations. So you feel free to contact me. I'm on Instagram, Cupid11, and I hope to hear from some amazing people. Stay beautiful, because you are. And I especially want those kids out there to remember it right now. You're not forgotten.